Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening to Tesla stock, what we can expect moving forward, and all of that good stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, as per usual, if you enjoy, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, my updates, or whatever, I do share my thoughts with my members every single day the market is open. That link is down below in the description of the video. It is the first link. You can click it there. And just $3 a month, you get access to my thoughts, posts, updates, etc. Mainly on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks. Today I talked about Google, for instance. Again, just $3 a month. And as the day is going, as the market is trading, I obviously give updates when necessary, of course. And for $5 a month, however, you can upgrade to the second tier where you get access to everything in the first tier I just mentioned, plus NVIDIA daily updates as well, if you're interested. But jumping into a Tesla closing the day with yet another, pretty much we'll say 3.5% decline, closing at $361.50 per share, which obviously compared to the market is going to be, you can make an argument it's actually not that far off from the market, with QQQ down about 1.3%. So Tesla, a little bit, maybe slightly worse, but nothing substantially, I would say, worse than the market. So anyways, let's just talk about it, right? So what does this actually mean moving forward? So Tesla stock did a very interesting thing. I actually told my members exactly what happened this morning. If I go all the way down to my morning posts, you can see how many posts I'm doing. The vast majority of my posts are the morning, because that's when the main stuff happens. I think it was right around, this is NVIDIA still. I've been doing it. Here we go. Not a bad look here on Tesla. Need to close looking like this though, instead of potentially giving up those gains, right? Well, that was the second post. The first post was actually this one, which was probably more important. Tesla's still under 375. This is as it opened. I want at least that recaptured, but honestly, 374 to 380 is the overall range. That range gave us several bounces before in the consolidation. So for better confidence, I want to see it get above 380 personally. While we remain below that, though, the chances of us making the full move down to the 350s is still on the table. And that's exactly what happened, right? We came right into that level. And, this is why I always like to trade off of a range as opposed to a specific level. I'm not a huge fan. Sometimes it's okay, but I'm not the biggest fan of being like, hey, if it breaks 374, then that's it. Congratulations. If it's 374.03, it's bullish. If it's 373.94, it's bear. It's not that simple, right? I like to give it a range. And this is exactly that range I talked about yesterday as well, right? Because we didn't just bounce it only off this level, or only off this level, or only off this level, or only down here. It was just this whole general vicinity, right? This whole general vicinity, this, $5-ish price range was that demand zone. Now it turned into a supply zone, or a resistance, essentially, right? That's exactly what happened. So we ended up starting off the morning pretty well, as you saw in the screenshots, pushed right up into it, pretty much came up exactly to the top of the range. But this is why you need closures, right? This is why you need patience for these kind of things. And this could have been a false breakdown, and this could have been a beautiful recovery, but it wasn't, right? We didn't get the closures. We didn't get any form of confidence above that. Not even a 1 hour closure. Did we even get a 15? Yeah, couldn't even get a 15 closure either. We just got rejected so fast that not even a 15-minute candle was able to show any signs of confidence around that area. So now, though, we're getting interesting. Now, this is where, I wouldn't say I'm bullish yet. I'm not bullish yet, but I'm close. I'm not going to lie. I'm very, 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 very close, to the point where, I'm even considering actually just starting to, begin a position here, essentially, right? I actually, for just, transparency's sakes, actually, thankfully, and I was very happy about this. It was a risk I was willing to take, but when we were pretty much at the high of the day, I think it was 378 when I did it. I actually did sell for a small loss on shares I bought slightly above, around here, because honestly, I don't even know why I bought the shares up there. That was stupid. And I did sell the shares for a loss. Again, it was a small position. I mentioned in the video before, I'm like, oh, that's my just in case shares, if in case we do rally up, which I don't think we would, but that was my hedge to the upside, if you will. Anyways, I did sell, thankfully. So I will be re-beginning a new position. Again, it was a small loss, nothing crazy at all. The position was 5% of my portfolio. But nonetheless, just for transparency's sake, I'm not perfect. But obviously, it's a good sign I did, though, right? In hindsight, of course. Now, what I'm looking forward, moving forward, is this. Now, again, Tesla is hugging the bottom end of the Bollinger Band. RSI is very oversold. The stochastic is oversold. Going to the weekly. Remember this weekly thing I've been talking about for so long? I don't know, 2 weeks, maybe more. I don't know. We're finally very close. You can make an argument we're pretty much there, but I'm a little bit greedy here. Tesla's showing a lot of weakness. They close at the low of the day. I'm not in a rush, I'll be honest. I still don't think Tesla's going anywhere anytime soon. but it is finally close to that mean reversion on the weekly, the thing I've been talking about for so long. And patience clearly paid off, sort of. I mean, I did enter a little bit prematurely earlier, obviously, but nonetheless, it was a light position at least, right? So patience nonetheless overall still paid off, right? Because again, this is the same thing I was talking about on Disney, right? Came right into it. Bam, look at that bounce, right? XYZ, or what's it called? Square, same thing. Bam, look at that bounce, right? And this is kind of the bounce I expect on Tesla over the next, honestly, in February, right? I think early next week, we most likely, we could still get a little bit of a downtrend, continue to the downside a little bit more, make our way, actually into the 350s, whether that's, 350 itself, maybe even peak our head into the 340s. That is a possibility depending on how fast this happens. The Tesla tends to overreact in, one direction or the other. So we could get a slight overreaction to the downside and maybe even pay a visit to the 340s. That is a possibility. But, like I said, we are now entering a position where I am starting to get interested. My interest is starting to very much get peaked. I am very, now I'm looking to begin starting a position, which again, ideally the 350s, as close to 350 as I can get it, the happier I'll be, because that's where essentially this mean reversion line sits right here. You can see it's kind of like market biasy sort of mean reversion line, which is of course that middle line of the Bollinger Band. Essentially, that's exactly where that's sitting. The dailies, Bollinger Band. Oh, sorry, the Bollinger Band is oversold. All right, it's RSI is oversold. Stochastic is getting close to oversold. MACD has been flipped bearish for so long that it's gonna at some point flip back to being bullish, and I think it will happen. But I think there'll be one more flush. I think we'll make our way down like this, and then there's two things that'll happen, right? And the way I look at it is going to be this moving forward. So let me go ahead and take this. Let me go ahead and I'm going to actually extend this down a little bit more to this line here, right? So what we can potentially get instead is a much larger wedge, right? There's something like this. And what we can do is we can potentially get a bounce from here and curve back up, sometime in February, back up to, 380 or something like that. Somewhere around, 380s, we'll say, give or take, of course, right? Something like that. That's what my first expectation would be. And then maybe we can come back down again, and then maybe get that breakout. Or, of course, we break down even further. That I don't know, right? I'm not going to sit here and look that far into the future and tell you I know or don't know. I don't know, right? But I do expect us, starting honestly, even from the price that we closed at to, again, potentially peeking our head into the 340s, this kind of like, 10 to potentially as much as $20 range, which is, it's a pretty big range. It's a little bit annoying, honestly. I don't like when the range is that big, but it is what it is. It is where I start seeing support coming in, right? This is where I do start seeing some, decent support coming in. In my opinion, this is not the time to get overly bearish. The time to get overly bearish was on this breakdown. That alone was a decent move, right? Even if you shorted the pop today, that's already like a 5% move to the downside. And I do think there is potentially a little bit more to the downside remaining. I don't think we're fully out of the woodworks just yet. So for instance, if I go here, right, from the close of today, right, we could still drop down another like maybe 3-4%, right? But I don't think it'll be much more than that. I think the downside is limited to about 4 more percent if it were to have, of course, happen. And I don't think we'll go much lower than that, at least short term, right? We can't only just go down either, right? Tesla has been trending downwards very aggressively since Trump actually became president, pretty much only red. Now, again, so take all these factors into consideration. On the daily, I just mentioned RSI, the Bollinger Band, massive area of supply that's coming in, or the demand that's coming in. The weekly finally reverting back to the mean. Not there just yet, but it's damn close. Like I'm not going to be waiting for it to, to the exact literal price. It rarely gets that close. Sometimes it gets close, sometimes it doesn't, right? You never know for sure. But, the point is the fact that we're very, very close. Now, the one thing that's concerning on the weekly, of course, is the MACD on the weekly is, I don't like how elevated it is, right? I don't like how it's still very high on the weekly. Like it's still stupidly high. Like this is really, really, really high up, right? And it's just, when I see these kind of things, it makes you wonder, like, if Tesla, because you have to think about it logically. If Tesla, right? And let's say all the, the ultra bulls, which, even back here, we're calling for Tesla to go to 600 and 500, whatever. Let's say Tesla, in theory, let's just in theory say we bounce from here. And let's say we actually rocket back up, 450, 500, whatever. Let's just say this is the bottom and we go back to $500. Let's just use that as an example. How do you think the MACD is going to look, right? You know what I mean? Like, what's going to happen to the MACD? Do you think it's just going to go somehow even higher? I mean, we're already arguably at one of the highest stages on the weekly we've ever been, right? Like, how much more higher can it potentially go from here? You know what I mean? Like, we're in some pretty unprecedented territory. Now, obviously, if you look at something like NVIDIA, clearly you can go a little bit higher, I guess, but the numbers actually on Tesla are higher because Yeah, Tesla's sitting at 47. Nvidia, for instance, on the weekly at its highest point was at 16. So it's like, how much higher could we potentially go? I mean, Meta went up to like the 50s, I guess. But do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it's hard for me to envision just how much higher it can really go on the MACD. Let's take a look at Meta, for instance, right? So Meta, back when it was at these extreme levels, yeah, it actually did go higher. So, maybe not. Maybe that's not the best example. So if you look at Meta here, you can almost view Tesla potentially being like right here, right? In terms of the MACD, nice little bearish crossover on Meta over here, and as it was falling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it did actually slowly trend back up. It was slowly, but a trend back up nonetheless. So, hey, anything's possible. Okay, I actually kind of learned something myself here. So you know what? Maybe that's not as valid as of a concern as I thought it would be. So that's good. But the point is the fact that regardless, even on Meta's example, it didn't just bounce from here and then rocket back up instantly. It took time. Like, these are weekly candles. Like, this took a very long time. Like, this was back in April of 2024. And now if it is up a decent amount, 64%, but it took, now we're in February of 2025, right? Like, almost a year, which is not bad. That's actually quite phenomenal regardless. But the point I'm trying to make is, when all the Tesla bulls are constantly saying that we're going to be rocketing to, $600 in Q1, that I don't see happening, right? I think, maybe like $500-$600, something like that is possible, but I just think it'll take a lot longer than people think. That's all I'm just I think that's what this is more telling me, I guess. It'll take much longer than people anticipate. We're not just going to rocket back up to $600 by like Q1 or maybe even Q2. It'll probably take to the end of the year, honestly. Like, that's just not how things go, right? And that's why selling options usually is really powerful, because even though, from here, let's say we do get a, that's slow but potentially steady move back up over the next year or something like that, to let's say $600 per share, as an example, of course. If you're doing well with option selling and during that time, even though it might be a slow little move to the upside and, it's nothing crazy, you're still making that money though. You're still making money both ways, which is really, really cool. So anyways, I'm getting going off on a tangent here, but I guess that's just the point I'm trying to make. It'll be hard for me to think that this is just going to rocket up anywhere to the stratosphere like too quickly, is my point I'm trying to make. But all in all, that's kind of what I got for you for Tesla stock. Let's go over the options flow before I go on another random tangent. Options flow, pretty mixed, right? I mean, yesterday we saw a lot of bearish flow, right? I mentioned substantial bearish flow yesterday. Today's probably why. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit more early next week, because we did close at the low of the day, right? So that is not ideal. We broke structure, etc. So, there is some short-term bearishness still here, despite I think we're getting very close to support. But for the most part, the options flow is pretty mixed. I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty mixed. And in terms of confirmed bearish flow, Tesla is 30 million confirmed bearish flow. So yeah, short term, I think we're finally getting close to a bottom. I'm getting ready to actually become a bull once again. I've been pretty neutral / bearish, even arguably in many instances up here, clearly for the right reason. But I'm getting close to being bullish. I'm getting very, very close to it. But yeah, I just want to see a bit more confirmation. But nonetheless, thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow or Monday. Peace.